Welcome everyone. It is Arki Hodges here, president of the Black Achievement Fund, here with another info session. And today is a very special day because it is the beginning of Black History Month 2026. All right, so without further ado, I want to give a shout out to Dr. Carter G. Woodson for establishing Black History Week, which has gone on to become Black History Month, and being a true pioneer. And we don't really talk about Dr. Carter G. Woodson like we talk about a lot of our ancestors, a lot of our heroes. And this guy was absolutely phenomenal. In addition to W.B. Du Bois and Monroe Trotter, Carter G. Woodson was also one of the very first African Americans to receive a PhD from Harvard. And he was also a Garveyite. He was a member of the UNIA, and he's been was one of the most staunch Pan-Africanists of his day. So I want to make sure that we all remember Carter G. Woodson on Black History Month. Before we go on, for those of you who may just be tuning in, I'm going to briefly share with you what the Black Achievement Fund is all about, because it's not complicated at all. And then we're going to go into our Black History Month lesson on BAF's REEVES, all right, the real Lone Ranger. So you guys are in for a treat. For those of you who may not know about him, and for those of you who do know about him, but we're going to listen to a famous story about when he was encountered by some Klansmen. All right, so that's all upcoming. But first, we're going to go and talk a little bit about what the Black Achievement Fund is. So for those of you who are just now tuning in, the Black Achievement Fund, we are a nonprofit economic and community development corporation based in Atlanta, and we have a very simple mission, and that is to finance the grand development of Black America $9 at a time. Our motto, 10 million Black people and our allies plus $9 a month equals $90 million every single month and over $1 billion a year. Ladies and gentlemen, $90 million a month could build a brand new Black-owned and controlled hospital every single month. $90 million a month could build a new Black university, support all the HBCUs substantially every single month, provide millions of dollars in business loans to Black entrepreneurs and business owners, establish and create our own museums and culture centers and things like that, so our kids have something to do in the evenings to nurture them as opposed to just having them hanging out in the streets. And with this budget, we're also employing countless Black people in Black communities all across the country as we're building new communities with $9 a month. And when we started the Black Achievement Fund back in 1996, all right? It's been a long time coming. And when we were in college, the University of Virginia, talking about the Black liberation struggle and movement, one of the things that we all tacitly understood was that we needed money. We needed economic independence. We needed to have an economic foundation. We needed to have economic infrastructure so that we could be able to employ ourselves throughout various different industries once we graduated from these colleges and universities. And we felt that that was one of the unfulfilled aspects of the Black liberation movement. So our focus was on just that. How do we generate a mass amount of capital for to finance the grand development of Black America and sustain this development, be able to sustain the salaries that are intrinsic with creating these types of independently controlled hospitals and museums and things like that. So we wanted to make sure that every Black person had an opportunity to put up or shut up. That's number one. You know, during the 90s, especially while we were in college, we constantly heard, well, Oprah Winfrey should be doing this, and Michael Jordan should be doing this, and this is the problem with the Black community. And it was almost like for a time we were putting the fate of the entire Black population on the shoulders of our few rich people. And it was absolutely unfair and irrational to think that a few millionaires or billionaires are going to be able to devote the time, capital, and energy necessary to transform Black America. All right, they can donate, but in terms of what we're talking about, you need mass organization. You need a bona fide corporate structure. So you need to be able to take this much more seriously. And what we've done with the Black Achievement Fund is we've broken up our program into 12 program departments. And each of these program departments represent a key area of Black life. And this ensures that the Black Achievement Fund works for every single Black person in this country, not just people who want to farm, not just people who want to start businesses, not just people who want to teach, not just people who want to be an artist, but we wanted to be able to create the organizational foundation for us to be able to develop comprehensively in all of the areas of life that we operate in. So this is what those 12 program departments represent. And how the Black Achievement Fund works is that we've allocated a portion of that $1 billion to each of these program departments. These program departments will be run by executive directors, and they will be given charge of the budgets that we've allocated to each of these different departments. They will be in charge of helping us chart the direction for the organization in each of these different departments. But what's more critical is that they'll be operating with a sizable enough budget to be able to hire the best and brightest from all of these different fields to work on behalf of all of these different fields. So ensuring that not just, if we have the capital, but we also have to have an organizational structure. We have to have a way to be able to deploy this capital in a way that is organized, in a way that enables us to move forward without a ton of bureaucracy involved. Now, right now, the Black Achievement Fund, we are in the beginning stages still of our movement. We have approximately 3,500 members in all 50 states and about 6 members internationally. Also important to note is that the Black Achievement Fund is open to anyone who believes in our mission and our guiding principles, regardless of race, religion, political preference, or sexual orientation. All right. What have we achieved so far? I'm happy to say we've been operating our very own culture club for the past 3.5 years. We own 9 acres of land outright with no mortgage that we purchased collectively over 24 months, and we've raised over $30,000 towards building our very first Black Achievement Fund owned guest house on our collectively owned land. So we're already showing that this model is extremely effective. And we've done all of this not with, you know, 10,000 members, 5,000 members. We've done not even with, we purchased the land with less than 200 members contributing across 22 states. So this is what is possible through this model, all right? And right now, we're in the process of developing our very first community, all right? When we talk about financing the grand development of Black America, we're talking about recreating a lot of those successful all-Black towns that we talk about all throughout history. You know, if there were over 200 all-Black towns and municipalities that were successful, why aren't we endeavoring to rebuild them bigger, better than ever before? And as I talk to people, the answer, a lot of the answers center around fear, center around the fact that those communities were burnt down, those communities were preyed upon. And I say to all of those people, we're not going to allow fear to make us shrink. We're not going to say, you know what, we're not going to attempt to be great. We're not going to attempt to shine, because if we do, invariably, some white supremacists are going to come and destroy us. So what is your alternative? To dim your light? To make someone else comfortable? There's no fear here at the Black Achievement Fund. We're here to establish at New Kemet a model community that wows people. We want to showcase our innovation. We want to showcase what a community would look like under an African-centered worldview. We wanted a community that wasn't dominated by hard development, a community that incorporated nature as a breathing, living part of the community, a community that enabled us to grow food that we're going to eat right there on the community, a community in which we control our own water, we control our own infrastructure. So this is what the Black Achievement Fund is working on right now. And once again, we're not waiting on 10 million Black people in order to join us. We're leading the way. And we understand that there is a lot of work that needs to be done to get our people to fight through a lot of the propaganda that has been geared towards us not being able to cooperate, especially on this level, this scale. So here at the Black Achievement Fund, we are focused on results. We're focused on providing tangible results that this model is not only viable, but this is the most humanistic model for governance, self-rule, development that I can think of. You know, it's a mixture of capitalism and socialism. You know, it's a beautiful balance between the both, where we're supporting people to be able to go as far as they possibly can in their own private endeavors, but we're ensuring a safety net for all members of society. We're ensuring that we have a food system that prioritizes health over profits so that our people can live longer. You know, we're talking about being able to operate hospitals in which we're employing our people who understand holistic medicine and haven't just been trained in Eurocentric practices. But you can't achieve any of those things if you don't have your own capital, if you don't have the know-how. And we're here at the Black Achievement Fund to push the needle, to say for Black leadership, we have to show results. We have to show capability if we expect to win over the masses. So that's our focus here with the Black Achievement Fund. And to chart what we've been doing, we have created a blog. So if you go to our website and go to New Kemet and scroll, we have our New Kemet development blog. And the blog is showcasing all of the work it has taken to get us vertical in our first subdivision of our New Kemet community. All right? And just saying that, like, we're building our first subdivision, not our first home. We're building our first subdivision. And this is with 3,500 members, but 500 monthly paying members. So what is possible is mind-boggling what we could do with this model. But what we're doing through our blog is showcasing all of the steps that it takes to create your own subdivision. And this is a private and nonprofit partnership. Just because the Black Achievement Fund is a nonprofit organization, it doesn't mean that our members can not profit through our system privately. Each of these 1 acre residential lots that we're selling in our New Kemet community are 100% owned by that member. They're not owned by the Black Achievement Fund. They're privately owned by that member. And it's a symbiotic relationship. As we build these privately owned homes on this land, the Black Achievement Fund's land is right behind this. So we're increasing the value of the Black Achievement Fund's land without the Black Achievement Fund having to have done any improvements on its own land. And this is the importance of knowing money. This is the importance of knowing economics, of knowing finance. These are the skill sets that we have to push for and that we have to develop in our community if we're going to move beyond a leadership establishment that is centered on teaching history, that is centered on, rhetoric. We have to push the needle. We have to push the needle. So what we're doing with the Black Achievement Fund, and I'm not sitting here saying that I have all of the answers. This is my first time developing a subdivision. So I've been showcasing what I've been going through, all of the steps that I've taken to demystify the whole process. Because at the end of the day, we want this to be the new movement. We want the new Black liberation struggle to be centered on rebuilding what was lost. If we had communities that were self-sustaining, where we govern ourselves, where the dollar turned over 12, 13, 14, 15 times, where we operated our own schools and religious centers and parks and stores and business districts, if we were able to do all of that while we were being denied capital from banks and so on and so forth, if we were able to be industrious and pool our capital together to create those communities, why on earth can we not do that again today? And we've designed a model to make it easy for us to move the needle, to where the burden isn't placed unfairly or too much so on one individual person. And we're talking 1/5 of our organization, of our population, the 10 million people. So that is the Black Achievement Fund's model in essence. And what we're doing right now is establishing our very first model community. Oh, but before I get off of that, we are going to be having a tour to New Kemet on February 28th. And this first house that you see should already be framed in by then, but you'll get to see the whole 112 acres and learn some new things that we have planned for the community. You'll get to see what a full acre looks like in real time, that sort of thing. But we want you guys to see that this is happening. You know, I'm not just up here talking every week, you know, as a podster or a YouTuber. You know, this is happening. All of these conversations is to get us to this point. All right. So February 28th, if you are interested in touring New Kemet, there will be a sign up email and that sort of thing that will be coming out tomorrow for that. But we look forward to sharing that. And you'll all have an opportunity to come inside once this is finished to see what the end result looks like and how it feels to, you know, live and be inside this style of home. But it is in dedication and reminiscent of the Great Pyramids at Giza. So everything that we do here is being inspired by brilliance and excellence. So we got a lot to uphold, and we here at the Black Achievement Fund, we're trying to be as excellent as we possibly can in every single thing that we do. All right, so now let's switch focus to our today's hero, and that is Bass Reeves. For those of you who don't know who Bass Reeves is, this is the black man that the character, the Lone Ranger, was modeled after. A lot of young people, you guys aren't going to know who the Lone Ranger is, but the Lone Ranger was a character in the Westerns that was like this badass lawman who was unstoppable, so on and so forth. And of course, it was a white guy playing it. But this character was based on the life of a real black man who became the first U.S. Deputy Marshal. And this man was once enslaved. So how do you go from being enslaved to running away, escaping from slavery during the Civil War in 1862? And once you hear the Emancipation Proclamation and all black people are now free and the Oklahoma Territory is free for black settlement and is welcoming for black people, he goes there, and now he becomes a U.S. Deputy Marshal, and he's arresting white men. He goes from legally being a property of white men to legally being able to arrest white men. And I'm going to go ahead and just put the video on and let the video share to tell the story.
Could use an escape these days, and what better way than immersing yourself in a good old-fashioned Western? Lee Cowan has wrangled up the true story of a lawman of the old
Nothing on the screen, brother.
finally getting his due.
Sorry. All right. Let's share. Okay. What about now?
Yeah, is something there, yes.
Okay, thank you.
In the lore of the American West, where heroes are made of both lawmen and the laws, there's a story of a man as tough as Billy the Kid, as good with a gun as Wild Bill Hickok, and as fast as a horse on the Pony Express.
He was like the Michael Jordan of frontier lawmen. He could whip any two men with his bare hands.
At 6'2", Deputy U.S. Marshal Bass Reeves was as imposing as his mustache. So strong it was said if he spit on a brick, it would shatter. He roamed the heart of the Indian and Oklahoma territories, almost with impunity, a nightmare for any outlaw. says author and African American studies expert Art Burton.
When I was doing the research, I was shaking my head all the time and saying, people are not going to believe this.
You'd think a wild, Wild West tale like that would almost tell itself. But when Burton began rustling up some research for a book on Reeves, he kept hitting dead ends, like when he tried to trace the Bass Reeves family tree.
A lady answered the phone and she said she had never heard of him. I said, well, he's an African-American who was a deputy marshal. And she was very kind about it. She said, sir, I'm sorry, we did not keep black people's history here.
Before he was a lawman, Reeves was a fugitive, a runaway slave from Texas. Imagine that, a former slave who eventually made a name for himself by arresting white people, no less. And yet his extraordinary story has largely been as forgotten as the ghost town, and Oklahomans say his time has come.
He's a black man. I mean, he's a stuff-up legend. I cannot imagine him being white and having the kind of career he had and it not be a major motion picture already, maybe several times over.
It sort of feels intentional, almost, the fact that we don't know more about him.
We're set and action.
To actor David Oyelowo, the tale of Bass Reeves has all the same ingredients as The Lone Ranger, only better.
The Lone Ranger. It's one thing to be a white guy with a mask riding a pretty damn wonderful horse. It's another thing to be doing that with limited resources. You're a black man coming out of enslavement and you do it for 30 plus years and no one is paying you any attention.
When we talked with him this past spring, he was trying to correct history's omission by acting in and executive producing an 8-part series for Paramount Plus, our sister network, called Lawmen, Bass Reeves.
How about I return that part in exchange for information? I would just kill you instead. Could try. But you be going after a deputy U.S. Marshal. And there's half a dozen more outside.
It's a massive production. Shot mostly on a ranch in Texas with veteran actors like Donald Sutherland.
You up for the task? I wouldn't be sitting here in my Sunday best if I wasn't.
And Dennis Quaid.
You are the most earnest man I have ever met. It's great to do a Western, man. It's like being 12 years old again. It really is.
Quaid was equally impressed with Bass Reeves' real-life loyalty to the law.
The thing is that Bass Reeves really was the real deal. He really was that.
Who's your master? George Reeves. He a major in the 11th Texas Cavalry.
Oyelowo says he studied recordings of slave narratives found in the Library of Congress to get his speech patterns just right.
I'm speaking in my own English accent with you guys today. Normally, that's not how we roll.
He also learned to row and ride.
I'm always looking for opportunities to scare myself, and that really did it.
He certainly had his share of insights into the man Bass Reeves must have been.
Gotta admit, certain likeness. Wouldn't you agree?
But the role was also a reminder that no matter how long it takes, light always illuminates greatness.
A tenet I live my life by is that excellence is the best weapon against prejudice. He was excellent. It was difficult to just say, oh, that's a black man who is unworthy, who should be subjugated. You couldn't dismiss him in that way. And that's also the reason why to not celebrate him is wrong.
Bass Reeves lived to be 71, spending his final years in the frontier town of Muskogee.
How much are they?
If you ever find yourself out here, take a walk through the Three Rivers Museum, where Reeves is still remembered.
The fearless and dedicated lawman.
And he's celebrated every year at the Bass Reeves Western History Conference.
Yes, sir. Bass Reeves was as good as they came. And when he died, he was American hero.
Is the mustache real?
Yeah, mustache is real. I give pulls for $10.
No one knows where the real Bass Reeves is buried, and maybe that only adds to the mystique.
I know better.
For author Art Burton, that doesn't matter. The child in it wants to thank Bass Reeves for giving him and other Black Americans a tip of the hat to a legend all their own.
I used to always wonder, where were we? So it was like God answered my prayers that had given me somebody before I passed away that said, well, we were part of the scene too.
You know, you guys all know I'm a historian, so these stories are what fills and gives me the courage, despite all that happens, to continue to push forward. And that's why Black History Month, that's why studying our history is so important, and just not taking for granted that, oh, I'm black, I'm conscious, so I know my history. It's about more than knowing your history. It's about being connected with your culture. It's about being in tune with what your mission is. So many of us are looking for purpose. And when I study history, and all of the people that we profiled through the Breaking Barriers African American History series, they're doing some of everything from starting new schools in Klan counties to starting new banks that thrive even after the Great Depression, to helping to fund John Brown's slave revolt, to organizing thousands of black people for a day to revolt against it. I mean, there's so many stories of brilliance, there's so many stories of courage, there's so many stories of resilience, and this is why our history is being submerged. It's not just to remove shame away from white students. It's also to remove a vital part of resistance from our culture. And that is the power of strategy, remembering history. It's important to listen to our ancestors of the past just as much as it is to listen to our leaders of today. Because at the end of the day, we as a people have to decide in real time what direction that we want to go in and what strategy is going to best get us there. All right, so now we're going to go and watch hear the tale of Bass Reeves battling the KKK.
Bass Reeves knew they were coming 3 days before they arrived. He'd heard the whispers in town, seen the way men looked at him when he brought in a white outlaw. So when 12 KKK members surrounded his camp that night, Bass wasn't surprised. He'd chosen that exact spot, counted every tree,
Hold on 1 second,
measured
guys.
every shadow. When their leader said,
Sorry about that. Okay.
Bass Reeves knew they were coming 3 days before they arrived. He'd heard the
Can you guys
whispers
see
in town,
my
seen
screen?
the way men looked at him when he brought in a white outlaw.
Yes.
12 KKK members surrounded his camp that night. Bass wasn't surprised. He'd chosen that exact spot, counted every tree, measured every shadow. When their leader said, "Tonight you die, boy," Bass smiled in the darkness, because they'd just walked into his trap. What the Klan didn't understand was simple. You don't hunt Bass Reeves. Bass Reeves hunts you. August 12th, 1884. The town of Fort Smith, Arkansas was buzzing with tension. Bass Reeves had just brought in 3 white outlaws, alive, handcuffed, humiliated. For a black U.S. Marshal to arrest white men in 1884 was dangerous. For him to do it with the efficiency and authority Bass displayed, that was unforgivable. The outlaws had family, they had friends, and some of those friends wore white hoods at night. Bass felt their eyes on him as he walked through town. He'd been a marshal for 2 years by then, and he understood how this worked. When you wore a badge and you looked like him, every arrest was personal. Every capture was an insult. Every day you stayed alive was a challenge to men who believed you had no right to exist, let alone carry federal authority. He heard them talking outside the general store, quiet voices that went silent when he walked past. He saw them watching from the saloon, their faces twisted with something uglier than hate. It was wounded pride. And wounded pride in a white man's heart in 1884 Arkansas was a deadly thing. Bass knew what was coming. The only question was when. 3 days later, he had his answer. Bass was tracking a fugitive named William Dodd through the Arkansas wilderness. Dodd had killed a Creek family and stolen their horses. The warrant said dead or alive, but Bass preferred alive. Dead men couldn't testify. Dead men couldn't face justice. Dead men were easy. Bass had tracked Dodd to a clearing near the Poteau River. Dense forest on 3 sides, river on the 4th. It was good hunting ground, which is exactly why Bass chose to camp there that night, even though Dodd was still 10 miles ahead. Because Bass wasn't hunting Dodd anymore. He was hunting the men who were hunting him. He'd spotted them 2 days ago. 12 riders, moving too carefully to be regular travelers, keeping their distance, but always there, just at the edge of sight. They thought they were being clever. They thought Bass didn't see them. Bass Reeves saw everything. He made camp in the clearing as the sun went down, built his fire bigger than necessary, made coffee, ate beans straight from the can. He moved slowly, deliberately, making himself visible, making himself look vulnerable. A lone black man in the wilderness, no backup, no witnesses, just him and the darkness. It was perfect bait. What those men didn't know was that Bass Reeves had been preparing for this moment his entire life. He'd been born into slavery in 1838, spent his childhood as property owned by a man named George Reeves in Arkansas. He'd learned early that to survive, you had to be smarter than the people who owned you. You had to see 3 moves ahead. You had to turn their confidence into your advantage. When Bass was 14, his master took him on a hunting trip. George Reeves was drunk, mean, decided to beat Bass for some imagined offense. Bad decision. Bass fought back, broke George Reeves' nose, maybe his jaw, left him bleeding in the dirt. Then Bass ran. Not in panic, not in fear, with purpose. He disappeared into Indian territory, 14 years old, alone. No food, no weapon, no plan except survival. The Creek and Seminole tribes took him in. They taught him to track, to shoot, to move through the wilderness like smoke. For 2 years, Bass lived among them, learned their languages, learned their ways. When the Civil War ended and slavery was abolished, Bass emerged from the wilderness a different man. He'd gone in as a boy, running for his life. He came out as someone who understood a simple truth. The most dangerous man in any room is the one who's already survived the impossible. Now, 26 years later, sitting by his campfire in that Arkansas clearing, Bass was about to teach that lesson again. He heard them at 10:47 p.m., 12 horses moving into position. They were trying to be quiet, but Bass could hear everything. The creak of saddle leather, the nervous breathing of men preparing to kill, the metallic click of rifle hammers being cocked. Bass didn't move, just sat there, drinking his coffee, staring into the fire. At 11 exactly, they revealed themselves, 12 men in white robes, stepping out of the darkness into the firelight. Their leader was a big man, 6'3", holding a coiled rope in one hand and a Colt revolver in the other. "You made a mistake coming here, boy," the leader said. Bass took another sip of his coffee, set the cup down carefully, looked up at the 12 men surrounding him. "One of us did," he said quietly. The Klansmen laughed. It was the laughter of men who thought they'd already won. "We got 12 guns pointed at you," the leader said. "What you got?" I've got something better, IB said replied. I've got geography. Before anyone could process what that meant, Bass moved, not toward the men, toward the fire. He kicked a burning log into the face of the nearest Klansman. The man screamed, dropped his rifle, clutched his burning eyes. In the same motion, Bass drew both of his Colt 45s and dove behind a fallen tree he'd positioned earlier that afternoon. The Klansmen opened fire, 12 guns erupting in the darkness. But Bass wasn't where they thought he was anymore. Their bullets tore through empty air, through the space where he'd been sitting 2 seconds ago. Bass fired back. 2 shots, 2 men dropped. Now there were 10. "Spread out," the leader screamed. "He can't get all of us." They were right. In an open fight, 12 against 1, Bass would lose. That's why this wasn't going to be an open fight. That's why he'd chosen this clearing. Bass had spent 3 days scouting this area. He knew every tree, every rock, every shadow. He'd carved handholds into certain trees for climbing. He'd marked his sight lines. He'd even loosened the dirt in specific spots so he could hear footsteps approaching. The Klansmen were shooting at darkness now, wasting ammunition, getting scared. Bass moved like smoke through the forest. The moonlight barely penetrated the canopy, and he used that darkness like a weapon. He circled behind 3 men who'd clustered together for safety. They never heard him coming. 3 shots, 3 bodies, 7 left. "Where is he?" someone shouted, fear in the voice now. "He's just 1 man," the leader yelled, but his voice cracked on the word man. Bass was already gone, moving to his next position. He'd tied his horse a mile away before sunset. These men's horses were scattered now, spooked by the gunfire. They had nowhere to run. Even if they tried, Bass knew this terrain. They didn't. 2 more Klansmen made the mistake of running toward the river. Maybe they thought they could swim across, escape into the darkness on the other side. They made it 10 feet before Bass's bullets found them. 5 left. The leader was shouting orders, but nobody was listening anymore. Fear had broken them. They were firing at sounds now, at shadows, at nothing. Bass picked off 2 more who'd separated from the group. Quiet shots in the darkness, then silence. 3 left. By 1 a.m., it was over for all but 1. The leader and 2 others had barricaded themselves behind a fallen tree. They were out of ammunition, terrified, waiting for dawn. Bass walked into their camp at 1:30. He wasn't hiding anymore. Didn't need to. His guns were drawn but pointed at the ground. He was giving them a chance to see him, to understand what had happened. The leader looked at Bass like he was staring at a ghost. "How?" he whispered. "You came to hunt me," Bass said, "but you never asked yourselves a question. How does a black man survive as a U.S. Marshal for 2 years in Arkansas? How does he arrest white outlaws and live to tell about it?" He holstered 1 pistol, kept the other ready. The answer's simple. I don't wait for the fight to come to me. I choose the ground. I choose the time. I choose everything. And when men like you come for me thinking I'm an easy target, he smiled. Not a friendly smile, a wolf smile. I teach them what their granddaddies should have taught them. Underestimating the man you're trying to kill is the fastest way to end up dead. Bass arrested 2 of them, handcuffed them to a tree. The 3rd man, the leader, he let go. "Why?" the leader asked, his voice broken. "Because you're going back to tell your people what happened here," Bass said. "You're going to tell them that 11 men came to lynch Bass Reeves and 11 men died or got arrested. You're going to tell them that every time they come for me, I'll be ready. Every time they think they've got me surrounded, I'm the one who chose the battlefield. And you're going to make sure they understand something important." He leaned close. "I'm not the hunted. I'm the hunter. And I'm always 3 steps ahead." The man rode away at dawn, broken, terrified, and alive only because Bass Reeves allowed it. By sunrise, Bass had collected his prisoners, buried the dead, and written his report for Judge Parker in Fort Smith. Clean, detailed, professional. He didn't mention that he'd planned the entire thing, didn't mention that he'd used himself as bait, just stated the facts. Attacked by 12 members of a domestic terror organization. Defended myself. 2 arrested, 9 deceased. Returning to Fort Smith with prisoners. When Bass rode into Fort Smith 3 days later with 2 handcuffed Klansmen, word had already spread. The survivor had told his story, not with pride, with fear. The whispers changed after that. Men still hated Bass Reeves, but they didn't try to ambush him anymore, because the story of what happened in that Arkansas clearing became legend. The night Bass Reeves turned a lynch mob into a lesson. The night he proved that a badge in the hands of a dangerous man is the most powerful weapon in the world. Bass Reeves served as a U.S. Marshal for 32 years. He arrested over 3,000 criminals. He killed 14 men in the line of duty. Every one of them was justified. Every one of them had a chance to surrender. Every one of them chose to fight instead. Bad choice. He never lost a prisoner, never failed to bring back his man. And after that night in August 1884, nobody ever tried to ambush Bass Reeves in the darkness again, because they'd learned. You don't surround Bass Reeves. Bass Reeves surrounds you. The KKK thought they were hunters. They thought a black man with a badge was easy prey. They were wrong. And by morning, 11 of them had paid for that mistake with their lives. Bass Reeves wasn't just a marshal. He was a message, a declaration, a living proof that courage, intelligence, and skill don't care about the color of your skin, that justice doesn't bend to intimidation, that the most dangerous man in any fight is the one who's already survived the impossible. If this story of the greatest lawman the Wild West ever saw moved you, hit that subscribe button. Bass Reeves' legacy deserves to be told, and we're just getting started. Drop a comment and let me know. Could 12 men ever beat Bass Reeves if he'd chosen different ground? And turn on notifications, because next week we're telling the story of how Bass Reeves arrested his own son for murder and what happened.
All right. Now, one thing that wasn't noted was that in his 32-year career, arresting over 3,000 criminals, killing 14 of them, being in countless gunfights, he was never, ever even wounded. Was never even hit by anybody. And all of this is documented. This man was a marshal. All of his arrests are documented. And these tales aren't just tall tales. These tales that were passed down not by black people, but by white people. Now, when you ask yourself, why is history so important for us to study? Not just our children, but also for us. Because your children take on your insecurities, your fears, all of those things. All right? You may not know it, you may not see it. But I'm a child. And I learned about Bass Reeves and that he's the real Lone Ranger. And that a formerly enslaved black man beat up his master, escaped slavery. When slavery was over, ended up arresting white men and killing them, and had the legal right to kill Klansmen. Can you imagine? Can you imagine a formerly enslaved black person legally now being able to kill Klansmen? And they thought they stood a chance. So, what we're doing here at the Black Achievement Fund Our goal is to establish our own municipalities. By establishing our own municipalities, it gives us the ability to legally hire our own officers like Bass Reeves. Do you know how many black military veterans there are that would love the opportunity to be employed by a black-owned city to protect a black-owned city with the military training that they've received? And we having the budget to pay them great wage for doing so. This is why teaching history is so important, is giving you examples of people who overcame fear, letting you see that, okay, this man overcame fear and he was successful. He overcame fear and he freed himself from enslavement. He became excellent, better at anybody at doing what it was that he did. And that was being a gunslinger. Now, I ask you this. What do you think your kids gonna learn this Black History Month? You think they're gonna learn about Bass Reeves? You think they're gonna learn about Captain Robert Smith, who stole a Confederate warship? You think they're going to tell you about the black men who became congressmen during Reconstruction? Ms. Faith, you have your hand up? You have the floor.
Yes, I actually shared with my grandson that this Black History Month was very special compared to other Black History Months, and he didn't know why. He's 19 in the university, and he didn't know why. And I said, "Do you know who Carter G. Woodson is?" And he said, "Yeah, I think I've heard of him." I said, "Well, he is the creator of Negro History Week. And this year, on February 7th, marks the 100th anniversary of Negro History Week. That is now Black History Month." He was like, "Whoa." So he learned that. He didn't learn about Bass Reeves. I have to share that with him later.
But,
But he did learn something new.
I'm glad that you shared that, because I feel like sometimes we've given up on the younger generation, that we're tired, that we're taking for granted that they're getting these real life lessons about race in America, about history, about overcoming obstacles, about resiliency, about courage. Because I firmly believe, like, just me doing the research and putting out the Breaking Barriers African American History series, and for all of you, this is Black History Month, please go get it. You can buy it through our store on the Black Achievement Fund's website or educationforlifeacademy.com. If you're a Black Achievement Fund member, Volume 1 is completely free. You just go to our members only page and scroll down and you'll get access to that. If you've forgotten the members only password, just email us at info@baf.solutions and we'll get that over to you right away. But this is the first day of Black History Month again, and it is my sincere appeal to you to take the time, take some of these classes in the Breaking Barriers series and get to know our ancestors. And I promise you will be inspired, and the more you share it with other people, the more they're going to gain inspiration. But we have to continue to be vigilant in making sure that everyone around us understand how important it is for us to stay connected, to know who we are, and to be connected in strategy. All right, so we have a monthly members meeting at 4 p.m. today. It's not live stream on our YouTube, so if you're interested in taking part of that, you're gonna have to come and join via Zoom. Also, what else? Is there anything else that I need to share? Anything someone else wants to share? before we?
Yes, I definitely wanted to share. Happy New Day, everybody. Happy Sunday Fun Day. I wanted to share that tomorrow from 6 to 7 is our Black History Club series, which is similar to our info session. Because shout out to President here, Brother Arkey, for creating and curating this great and educational learning breaking barriers African American history series volume 1, which we all have access to on our members only page. And I've taken this initiative to start this Black History Club. It is RSVP only, so definitely go to our website at baf.solutions / the program calendar / calendar for clearness, and RSVP so that you can attend the class. We can learn and study and grow together. So Miss Faith, definitely send your grandson so he can get this learning. We are on class 2 of the series, which is the incomparable Jones family, right? I love the enunciation of that word. I also enunciate it as the incomparable Jones family. So definitely tune in tomorrow, y'all, 6 to 7 Eastern Standard Time, RSVP. Look forward to seeing y'all. It's live on Zoom and also live in our Kemet Club. Thank you.
All right, all right. Thank you all so much for all of your support. Please make sure, if you have not subscribed to our YouTube channel, to take the time to do so now. Also, like, comment, and share this post. We get most of our new members from social media through our YouTube page. So thank you all once again for sending these emails out, sending these, these YouTube posts out, info sessions. All right, I'll see you guys at 4 p.m. Love you. Thank you guys for all the support. Black Achievement Fund hug, and I'm signing off.